Hello everyone, this is Helios Raven. I tell you how I do it, even if you don't care. And we're continuing on with our description of celestial phenomena in the Battlefleet Gothic, basically the space terrain. When we last left off, we were talking about the effects of gravity wells. You could check out the video right here to see what I'm talking about. And what basically, just for a short one of the last thing I went over, is a gravity well of a planet allows a ship to make a free 45-degree turn at the beginning and end of their movement to represent the pull of gravity, and the ship using that to its advantage, but the turn can only be made towards the planet. So, for example, a Hades-class cruiser right here may make a free 45-degree turn before it moves, move its minimum distance to make another turn its other 45 degrees that it gets for its regular ship profile, move the rest of its movement, and then at the end of it, make another free 45-degree turn towards the planet. Now, like I said, he can't actually make this turn to turn away from the planet, because that's not how gravity works. It has to be towards the planet itself. And basically, there's usually only going to be one on the table, although you can do certain areas, like there's special missions called where planets collide. You could also, if you want to be just fun and weird, put multiple planets together. It's science fiction, it's space. If you want to bend the laws of space-time and physics, go right ahead. I'm all for it. If it makes the board crazy and fun for you, that's what I suggest you do. Do that more. If there's a large... Now, there's some more rules that evolve the planet itself. The next thing that we're going to talk about is ring planets. Ring planets are basically, planets that have asteroids running around them. So basically you get a planet with an asteroid belt, so it makes the planet a little bit more dangerous to get close to, but could also benefit certain ships depending on what you're doing. They could either be asteroids or dust clouds that are represented as rings around the planet, and what you do is, if it's a large planet on the table, you roll a d6, and on a 5 or 6 it has rings around it, and you place D3 rings around the planet. Then roll a D6 to see what sort of each ring is. We're going to put the chart on the bottom of this video to describe what each result results in. And the ring is D6 centimeters wide and begins D6 times 5 centimeters away from the planet's edge. Note that some may end up merging with one another, but that's fine. So you could have a asteroid field dust cloud ring. So basically, you could have a ring that basically does the same effect as an asteroid field and a dust cloud, or you could have a dust cloud, then an asteroid field, then another dust cloud, and so on and so forth. So it could be you could make a planet pretty nasty in any tabletop terrain. And they also have another piece of terrain that functions as its separate own, but kind of a partnerish to planets, which are moons. And moons count as small planets in all respects, including declaring the effects of their gravity wells on turning. So basically, a moon is a small planet. And a medium planet typically, and underneath in the video we're going to just write down, the stats for which planet gets how many moons, but a medium planet typically has a D3 minus 1 moons. Large planets have a D6 minus 2 moons. Moons are up to 5 centimeters in diameter, and a planet's moons are placed 2 d6 times 10 centimeters from the planet. Roll randomly to see which direction which direction they are from the planet. So basically, it's a way to make crazy setup for a fighting battle, and that's basically all the rules for planets and moons in Battlefleet Gothic. So let's move on to our next terrain feature. Okay. Timer start. Okay, now our next table feature that we're going to talk about is fighting sunward. If you are fighting and you have a sun edge, when you're fighting with the sun edge, basically, if you're very close to the system, the presence of the local star has powerful effects on the ship's ability to detect vessels. At extreme ranges, the glare of the sun will tend to obscure. So basically, they're saying, on battlefields where you're really close to the sun, excuse me, the sun's going to have effects on your vessels. And the effects that the sun has on your vessels fighting is as follows. Let's just say that the sun edge is right here. Okay? Now, when you are in the outer reaches of deep space, the light from the distant star has no effect on comet. In battles taking place from the flare region to the primary biosphere, fighting sunward has the following effects. Those are the two closest spheres in the system you can fight in Battlefleet Gothic if you decide to do, rolling out on the chart to see which section of the space you're going to fight in. And basically, any firing conducted towards the sunward table doubles the column shift for long and short range. At long range, over 30 centimeters, the powerful photosphere blinds long-range sensors, so take 2 column shifts to the right on the gunnery table instead of 1. At short range, 15 centimeters or under, targets are silhouetted instead, so make 2 column shifts to the left. So, in this aspect, if the Chaos ship is over here and the Gothic ship is way over here when it fires its batteries, it takes 2 column shifts to the right, which basically hinders the ship's ability to see it because there's a blaring sun glare, sort of like when you're driving and the sun hits you right dead smack in the eyes, makes it hard to see. Now, but if he was really close to the ship, the sun actually silhouettes him, makes him a little bit easier to see over the sun's light, and so you'd get 2 column shifts to the left, making it really easy to 2 column shifts to the left, making it really easy to fire on the ship and do more damage to it. And also, other effects that the sun have are solar flares. And basically, a solar flare is a giant shock wave that that flares up from the sun. And what the effects of it is, you roll a d6 at the start of each turn. If more than 1 flare was generated as part of the celestial phenomena, roll a d6 per flare generated. This is, again, if you decide to do random terrain features on your planet and you roll on the chart for which terrain pieces you get. On any roll of a 6, a flare occurs. So say if we have 2 sun flares on the table, we'd roll 2d6, and this turn none of them go, there's no flares. And for at the start of each player's turn, you roll the d6s again. Now we roll the 6, so a sun flare happens this turn. And once a flare occurs, this roll no longer is needed to roll. So 1 soul flare has used its effect, so now the next turn I would roll only 1d6 until a 6 is rolled or the game is over. And when a sun flare happens, each ship on the tabletop has 1 blast marker placed sunward of them. So, for example, with this in this effect with this Chaos Cruiser and this ship, since we declared the sun edge that way, he'd put a blast marker in the rear, at his rear, and he'd put a blast marker on his front to indicate that's where the sun hit him. Any ship without shields suffers 1 hit and will take critical damage on a roll of a 4 or more on a d6. So this would happen with Eldar ships and such, or any ship with shields collapse. Let's just say the Gothic Cruiser's shields are collapsed. I would roll a d6. He rolled a 4, so he suffers 1 critical damage on critical damage. Roll a d6 for each ordnance marker, and on a 4 or more, it is removed from play. So basically, it's designed, that the ships are smaller, so they can't handle intense heat as much. So you have to roll a d6 to see if... So you have to roll a d6, and on a roll or more, the ship overheated and exploded, and the ordnance marker is removed. Eldar and their kin can make a leadership check to ignore all effects of a solar flare, and their escorts may re-roll this result for free. See, so basically the Eldar get a lot of cheap stuff when it comes to the... They get a lot of disadvantages with a lot of the terrain, but they get a lot of chances to ignore it completely. And the escorts always get to re-roll this result for free. If it's passed, it will take no damage, but instead turn directly away from the solar flare and move 2d6 centimeters away. Now, I don't have my Eldar on me right now, but let's just say this Chaos Cruiser is a Void Stalker. it makes a leadership check under a leadership of 9, and it makes it. So instead of getting the damage from the solar flare, it is, so let's just say it was like this, and we roll the leadership, it passes. So now it is moved in the direction away from the sun edge, and you roll 2d6, I rolled a 7, so we move 7 centimeters this way, and basically avoids suffering damage from having no shields against the celestial phenomenon. And now we're moving on to the very last effect for table effects in this that works with the sun and all that. So give me 1 second to get ready. Okay, now the last effect that suns can have on ships is radiation bursts. This can be in conjunction with solar flares. It really all depends on if you want to have them, or if you roll them randomly, you can have a solar flare and a radiation burst happening at the same time. And it basically, the way it triggers is the same way. At the beginning of each turn, you roll a d6, but instead of needing a 6 or higher, instead of rolling a 6 on the d6 to activate it, it is activated on a 6 or a 5. So it's a 5 or up to get a radiation burst. And again, you roll, if you have multiple radiation bursts, you roll 1d6 for each, and once you've rolled it, and once you've triggered it, you don't roll for that radiation burst anymore. And what they do instead is, say for example, let's see, we have 3 radiation bursts. We roll 3d6, we got nothing there. Next turn we roll it again, and nothing there. And then on the next turn, we roll and we get 1-5. We would then roll 1d6 because only 1 radiation burst went off, and we rolled a 1. We now minus that check from all their leadership checks for the rest of the turn. Now let's say if on the next turn we roll the other 2 radiation bursts, we roll a d6 for each, and combine it, we've got a 5, so now for the rest of this turn, they take a -5, they take a -5 to their leadership checks for the remainder of that turn. Also, in addition to the reduced leadership for the interference, the fleet commander may only use their rerolls for command checks for their own ship or radiation burst. So, radiation bursts are not as bad as solar flares in terms of doing damage and affecting you with blast markers, but they do hinder your ability to command your ships, and prevent you from using your rerolls on anything but your own ship or squadron. And so, it's pretty nasty, especially if you roll a 6, you're pretty much screwed at passing any leadership check at that point. And that is actually the last rule for the base involving the sun when fighting sunward in Battlefleet Gothic. And we are running low on time, so we'll continue with our next video at another date. So until next time, this is Helios Raven signing off.